Hello, welcome to the National Baseball League. These are for yesterday's games. These are August 2nd's games. August 2nd. So that would be yesterday's games. That's just board 1 of 2, and then I'll do today's games tomorrow, if that makes sense. So we're going to top to bottom, left to right. And as usual, here we go. We start with the Portland Acres and the New York Knights. Pretty close game here, but the Knights fall. Pretty close game here. The New York Knights almost, and then Portland, they get the last line. It seems like they walked it off 8-7. Good job on Portland. 16 hits. There's your key right there. 16 hits. I believe that might be 14. I don't know because 4 doesn't seem right, but I could be wrong. But it runs on 16 hits, and that's enough to get the job done for the Portland Acres. I'm surprised they didn't win it by a bigger margin than just a single run. And this ties the series 1 game apiece. So, good job with the Anchors. You'll see what happens tomorrow. You'll see what happens tomorrow. Gotta make my speech more clear. Maybe that would get some more views, because sometimes I notice that my speech is a bit... So then we move to San Diego and Orlando, second up of the 3-game series. Pretty close initially, but San Diego, they jump out to a lead pretty late. I'm noticing this. They got a lot of hits, though. With that came a couple extra runs, and then they just held on to that 2-run lead. They shut down Orlando. The Sunrays didn't have a response back, and therefore San Diego takes this game as well. They took the first one as well, so they're going to win this series against the Orlando Sunrays. Pretty close game initially, but again, San Diego jumping out offensively, and the defense, especially their bullpen, did a good job. They did the brunt of the work, keeping Orlando down. San Diego leads 2-0. They win the series against the Sunrays. They're going to look for the sweep. We'll see if they can get it. To Montreal, Boston for the Boston Whalers and the Montreal Expos. That's wrong. So, mistake. I'll fix it. So, I fixed it just real quick. So I don't know what Boston... I think they're going through something. This seems almost Sunray-like. They might be going through one of those where they just completely collapse halfway through the season, because we're getting closer to that halfway point now. We're getting pretty close. I think we're on probably between 40 and 50 games. I've shown up 56 now, as of recording this. I've shown 56 games of the National Baseball League out of probably 300-400 that have actually been played. And I've covered basically every single one in some way or form, whether that's telling you through these videos or one day where I had the 2 times that I've had to do just posts because I fell behind. Now I'm caught back up somewhat, still a bit late. But yeah, I'm rambling on a bunch. So the Montreal, something's going on with the Whalers though. This is like a perfect game to exemplify what I'm talking about. This series, Montreal, they have not been a great team. Boston has been. And the fact that the Montreal has won this series, again, a 4-game series, they've won it because they've won 3 games. So they might actually get the sweep. It's not. It doesn't sound that crazy to me, because Boston they're just like the Sunrays. They're on a free fall. A free fall to the bottom. Sunrays have already bottomed out. It can't get worse for Orlando. Boston, they might become the Northeast equivalent. Because Boston and Orlando, same conference. Orlando's in the south, Boston's in the north. They might be the same thing. Because Boston's they're giving up more runs and they're scoring less. And that's going to obviously mean less wins. That's what's happening here. They just could not... Their pitching just out the window this series, and the runs they do score are few and far between, and they just don't score enough to make up for what they're giving up. And you can see here, they didn't muster a fight at all. They lose 6-1. If you're like a Boston fan, that's just disheartening, sad to watch. Imagine if what this happened to the Red Sox. Boston fans would be watching the ship sink, and you can do nothing about it. that feeling is terrible. Even politics, that comes up a bit. I don't want to get into that. Since the only politics I'll talk about is the censorship stuff, which it's calmed down somewhat, but it's still there. It's like these dates that are looming, waiting for you to cut off your access. I'm not really. We got baseball to talk about. So Boston, just there on. I don't even know what's happening. How are they going to become dysfunctional as Orlando? We'll see. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Whalers. Expos are doing a great job taking advantage. They might actually sweep it. They actually might, which is just insane. So then we had Albuquerque and Utah. So the Albuquerque Aliens, two big mistakes defensively, but they just hammer. They're hammering these balls. They runs 11 hits. Fantastic. They're outscoring their opposition, and that's how they won this one. Series tied at 1 between these two teams. We'll see who wins. Good job for the Aliens to get that 8-4 win over the Raptors. And their defense, their bullpen did some work too, so good for that. Then we had the Cincinnati and Tampa Bay, pretty close game. Very, your pitching matchup, pitching duel type of stuff. Almost no scoring on. Then Cincinnati, they sneak one run through, and that's the only run of the game they win. 4 runs for Tampa, 5 runs for Cincy. No errors. I mean, that's the second straight win for the Stingers. They lead the series 2 games to nothing. We'll find out what happens tomorrow with today's game tomorrow when I do the recap for tomorrow. For today, tomorrow, if that makes sense. So then we had the Oakland Ocean and the Seattle Sasquatch. Second up of the 3-game series. Pretty close one initially, but Seattle, similar to like San Diego, maybe. They jump out to that lead, and then Oakland had no response. So that, and in fact, Seattle just shuts down. They jump out of the lead, and they shut down Oakland defensively with their bullpen and their defense. They won at 9-6, 12 hits. That helps a lot. One Oakland error probably played in 6 runs, 7 hits. Oakland, they were not having as much hits in this game offensively. Series tied at 1 apiece, so we'll see who wins. Oh, the R is gone. There's supposed to be an R there. I just noticed that. But it doesn't really matter that much. So we had Philadelphia and Washington. In Washington, our nation's capital, as the monuments of the Philadelphia Liberty. Pretty close game here. Same old story. Philly jumped probably in the 8th, 7th, or 8th inning. They get that run lead, and then their bullpen does the work. They keep Washington at bay. They ride it through to win the game 4-3 over the Monuments. 4 runs, 10 hits. They do make an error, but again, their bullpen does the work here. The Monuments 3 runs, 8 hits, no errors. Back-to-back wins for Philly. They win the series against the Monuments. Fantastic job for Washington. Well, for Philly, fantastic job here, bullpen-wise and all that defensively, especially late in the game. They win it 4-3. Then we head to San Francisco and Vancouver where the Firebirds and the Grizzlies go to town. And, well, San Francisco, not really a crazy game. San Francisco, seems like they got out to an early lead. And then their offense just fell off a cliff, and then they're just ride their pitching and defense the rest of the game. They win 5-2 over Vancouver. 2 runs, 7 hits, and an error for both teams. Grizzlies with the 2 runs, 7 hits. You just don't muster anything. Firebirds, back-to-back wins, they win the series against the Grizzlies. So, then we head to a couple 4-game sets. Starting with the Motors and the Aviators. So, Columbus hit both teams. Offensive overload, but not the runs don't actually show for it that much. So, 21 hits and 2 errors for the Aviators. 21 hits, 17 hits for Detroit themselves. But both teams just, so basically defense isn't a thing here. But they were able to, what's happening line here is like bases loaded, get out, and then the team gets out of it. And they survive bases loaded situation probably multiple times that happen here, because otherwise there's no way you're getting to these kinds of numbers without your runs getting up that high. Because both runs are still in single digits in this game. Aviators, they were able to bring 9 runs home. Probably some home runs in there. And they do a fantastic job shutting down the Motors. Fantastic job, especially late in the game. 4 runs. Despite 17 hits, they don't allow the runs to come home. And then Detroit, their offense is for nothing then. Aviators led the series 2-1. They're looking to get the series win in Game 4, which was played today. I haven't seen the score yet. So then we do the Atlanta Arrows and the New Orleans Gators. It's basically this game, but instead of the road team winning, the home team wins. Probably a walk-off. And here's a fascinating thing about this, similar to Columbus over here, or Albuquerque out here. Atlanta makes 2 errors in this game. It's still a close game. It's not like this, so they didn't outscore it. But they got that run at the right time, plus maybe some robust defense. And the Arrows win 4-3, really close one. They survive. They take that series lead 2-1 over the Gators, and they're going to try and get the sweep as well. Not the sweep, they're trying to get the series win in Game 4, just like Columbus. The Aviators, but they better get that series. They better get that series win. But otherwise, the Atlanta Arrows, they did a good job defensively keeping New Orleans down. And while the game was like tied and stuff, and then they jump out to that lead, probably a walk-off, and they win it 2-1. Now to the New York Sailors and the Toronto Huskies. Just 2 games left on this board, then we'll go to board number 2. So the New York Sailors, pretty close one. This is the one I covered yesterday, at the time I'm recording. We're watching this on the 4th. I took myself a liberty to watch the Reds game, which I'm kind of sad they lost, but that's that. There was a lot of other things, especially with the rain delay and stuff. But otherwise, the New York Sailors and the Toronto Huskies, pretty close game. This one was weird because New York, they struggled pretty much the entire game, and in the 8th inning, they rallied back in a 3-run home run, puts the Sailors back on top over the Toronto Huskies, and then 4-3. And then in the 9th inning, Dale Williams solo homer to tie it, forces the bottom of the 9th. And then an RBI single from Cameron to win it. Whoa. Fun win. Sailors win 5-4, 14 hits. That is why they win this game. That is why they won. That is why they won, 14 hits. And they scored they brought some of them home. And that's what wins them the game. 1 error both teams. Series tied 1 apiece. Then we had the Houston actually covered game 1 of this series. And then Chicago, they do it again. And by a bigger margin this time, by a 3-run gap. Chicago is beating, and they're at the bottom of the Central. Houston's number 2, they're 5 back behind Chicago. 5 games back at Houston's 5 games back at Texas, number 1, because they lead everything. They're ridiculous. Chicago being at the bottom, they win a series against a team that's way ahead of them in the standings. So Chicago might be getting better. 4-run score on 9 hits. And they hold Houston in 1 run around 6 errors. And the Cosmos do make an error, which that probably contributes. Railers are going to win this series against the Cosmos. Unbelievable. So, wow. So that's board number 1. Let's see for board number 2. So, here's board number 2. So, we start with the Texas Twisters and the Edmonton Eagles. Series tied at 1. And Texas, I gotta hand it to them. They just continue to just keep on impressing me. This team is ridiculous. How good this team is. They shut out the Edmonton Eagles 6-0. They may not have a lot of hits, but their hits count. 6 runs, 7 hits. Fantastic. They hold the Edmonton Eagles to 5 hits. If any team is gonna have a pitcher throw a perfect game, Texas could very well be it. Because if you're putting up results like this, it's not that far out of the question. 6-0 Twisters win. Series tied at 1. Edmonton, they had no fight back. None. Zilch. Nothing. Great job, Texas. Then we had the Memphis Blues in the Las Vegas game. Or is it? Alright, so Memphis, second win in a row, they'll take the series against the Gamblers with this win. They win 6-4 over Las Vegas. The Blues here. So similar thing. Their offense, their hits count. 6 runs, 7 hits. They do make 2 errors, but their bullpen late in the game, they shut down Vegas. They keep them to those 4 runs. Could have been a walk-off as well. 4 runs, 10 hits, no errors for the Gamblers. Memphis, they do a great job keeping Vegas at bay for the duration of the game, and then they get those 2 runs either 7th or 8th inning or a walk-off, and they win 6-4. Great. Blues did a fantastic job in this game over the Gamblers. Great job of the Memphis Blues. Then we get to the St. Louis Stars and the Minnesota Northern Lions. They're in St. Louis here. It's actually the game I cover Game 4, but I'm not going to talk about Game 4 since we're not there yet. So St. Louis, winning this game, they take a 3-0 series lead over the Minnesota Northern Lights, and yes, you will find. By the time you see this, you will find out who won, which I had trouble with the streams for Game 4 over that Minnesota game. I think it's because I got a VPN now. I gotta figure that out. I want to figure that out tomorrow. Anyway, St. Louis Stars, same thing as Edmonton up here. St. Louis, they're an overlooked team. It's because they have Houston and Texas right above them. And catching them is practically impossible. For the Stars here, 5-0 shutout win over the Minnesota Northern Lights on 7 hits, so their hits, they count. Fantastic. Northern Lights, just 5 hits. No fight back. Same story. And as far as the individual game, the only difference is St. Louis, they're on track to sweep the Northern Lights, winning 3 in a row. And yeah, and I covered Game 4, so yeah. So that's pretty much it. And I'm Thomas Durst, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.